This is one of Cluny the Scourge's online Rome Total War battles, this time a siege battle in imitation of the Prince of Macedon's recent work. I'm playing as Parthia. I've taken 2 onagers with which to breach the enemy walls, 4 cataphracts, 2 war elephants, and 6 units of hillmen. That's pretty weak light infantry, which is the best that the Parthians nevertheless have available to them, who are going to power the siege equipment. 2 rams and 2 siege towers. The city I'm besieging, by the way, is Rome. The overwhelming bulk of my troops have been placed facing the gate which leads to the most direct route to the enemy town square. However, I've placed this second ram facing another gate with the intention of occupying the attention of some of the enemy's troops. Now my opponent, Alexanderthegreat, is playing as Gaul, and he's taken 5 units of foresters and 15 units of chosen swordsmen. The foresters, appropriately enough, are manning the walls, and they open fire on my siege equipment as soon as I begin advancing. Now here you see, over on that right wall where I'd left the 1 ram, he has a disproportionately large number of troops stationed, and he responds to the beginning of the battle by rushing them, here as you can see, back over to the main gate where the bulk of my force is facing. Now right from the outset, my catapults open fire on a section of wall over to the right of the gate, and that bombardment continues for some time. Those are epic stone walls, so they can take quite some punishment, even with 2 units of onagers at work. Naturally they're set to non-incendiary mode, which is the mode necessary to bring down walls. Now I begin my siege equipment moving forward, the ram and the towers. Here's an elementary rule of siegecraft in Rome Total War. You need a minimum of 3 rams to face a gate that you actually want to succeed in bringing one to bear against. The automated defensive equipment of the walls themselves will ensure that a single ram, and quite possibly 2 rams, won't succeed in reaching the gate. And with foresters backing them up, with their volley fire, there's absolutely no possibility of getting anywhere near the walls. As you can see there, the secondary ram was destroyed in short order too. Now here, bizarrely, you see hillmen apparently running on air with their heads stuck up each other's arses. This is what the inside of a siege tower looks like. Now I'm sending my hillmen onto the walls to confront the forester warbands, posted on either side of the gateway. Foresters are the toughest archers in the game, and hillmen have no chance against them as long as the foresters use their ult attack, hold down Alt and right click, to draw out their spears, which they don't do for some considerable time, and consequently my hillmen cause far more casualties than they really have a right to achieve. Much the same is happening on the left hand side of the wall. Now you'll appreciate that I obviously don't have any serious idea of taking those walls using just a couple of units of hillmen against foresters. The purpose of all this siege equipment was solely to distract the enemy from the real means of entry, i.e. the breach through the walls. And it worked. As you can see, he's massed that immense horde of chosen swordsmen against the gate and against the entrances to the walls leading up to face my hillmen, who are fighting against foresters who bizarrely appear to be going through some kind of calisthenics routine, stretching their arms. Certainly they aren't shooting at anything unless solid rock is a target, but the section of wall which is about to crumble beneath my catapults is at present undefended. Here we see the ending of the bombardment. It finally comes down, and none too soon, for my hillmen on the walls finally rout. My opponent, however, is still sending troops up to meet them, which means that I have a clear shot at entering that breach with my cataphracts and elephants. He manages to send a couple of units of chosen swordsmen to cover the breach, but the great bulk of his army is still far away. In fact, he even still has several units over by the secondary gate, which is now faced by no soldiers whatsoever, nor any siege equipment. My opponent really has done a very bad job of reading my intentions, and consequently I'm able to force my way into the centre of the civilized world, Rome, with my cataphracts, relatively unopposed. As soon as they reach the chosen swordsmen, I order them to switch to their maces using the Alt attack. You hold down the Alt key and right click on your opponent, and armed with maces, those cataphracts bypass the armour of your opponent making them much more deadly against heavily armoured troops like chosen swordsmen. My elephants arrive on the scene, and almost immediately those chosen swordsmen break. Now you see, over by the secondary gate, far to the right, the Gauls still have at least three units doing nothing. Now once it finally occurs to my opponent that he's given me a free run into the town square with the bulk of my elite troops, he's going to send them down from the wall to try to oppose me, but he could have had soldiers waiting and ready for me to keep me off from the town square in the first place. Now as soon as I enter there, the timer begins. I need to hold it for 3 minutes, and then I will win the match. Now to give me more time, I send one unit of cataphracts to carry out a holding action against the first of the chosen swordsman units who rush after me to try to stop me. Once again, I make certain to switch to my maces to gain the best effect, and consequently I almost managed to smash the first chosen swordsman units, but that boiling sea of reinforcements will be coming pretty soon. Now these are the soldiers who've come down from the walls from the secondary gate, and they're heading straight for the town centre, so I need to leave one unit on the town square to keep it under my occupation, while I send the rest of my elephants and cataphracts to confront them. Here you see the holding action again. More of his troops are being fed in, and eventually the Parthians are going to be overwhelmed by the concerned by number of enemy effect. When your opponent manages to secure a localized numerical superiority of significant figures, it is not unknown for a unit which doesn't have the benefit of the good morale or excellent morale unit trait to rout very quickly indeed. Cataphracts, however, are pretty tough, and their morale holds longer than you might otherwise expect. Now in a siege battle, all that the defender needs to do to stop the victory counter from descending is get one soldier onto the town centre to contest possession of it by the attacker. And you're about to witness an aggravating spanner thrown into the works of my plan to that effect soon. Now these are the troops that came down from the wall facing the secondary gate. He's fed them in one at a time instead of massing them, and consequently my cataphracts were able to destroy them. Here you see 3 routing soldiers walked onto the town centre before I could stop them, and the timers had to be reset completely. The archers mounted on top of my elephants cut them down, but I've lost valuable time and given my opponent more of an opportunity to bring that great green vomit stain of chosen swordsmen to bear against the town centre. The arrival of my elephants on this side of the conflict causes the frightened by elephants effect to tip these Gauls over into final rout, and I destroy them. Bizarrely, elephants are charging through the streets of Rome. Jumanji! Watch this carefully. The instant that the elephants reach that immense horde of chosen swordsmen, they rout. That is the power of the concerned by number of enemy morale effect. I sent them in alone, and consequently they were completely useless. Sorry, Baba. I have to stop that main force somehow, so I send in the rest of my troops, who I've managed to switch back to transfer them away from that first engagement you saw over on the right. And it all now comes down to whether I can stop these chosen swordsmen long enough. Now I have 2 units of cataphracts fighting. I've switched to mace, of course, naturally, as soon as possible. And I have another unit of elephants following behind. I've had to leave 1 unit, of course, on the town centre in order to keep the victory timer counting down. And for that I chose my general unit to forestall the possibility of my general dying and so causing an unexpected morale blow to my troops, which could have been my undoing. The victory timer counted down just in time, for as you can see, my cataphracts did indeed rout at the hands of those swordsmen, and if the Gauls had been blessed with 1 more minute, they would certainly have reached the town centre and defeated me. Instead, I prevailed.